Hi, my name's Alexandria Boyd, and I'm the Director of Revenue and Operations at OITVOIP. This year, OIT was recognized with the Spotlight Award for Advancement in Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion from the GTIA community. And I have worked closely with the Committee for Advancing Women in Technology, who has been working closely with the DEI community to build a workbook on how to attract, hire, and retain diverse talent. So I'm going to go over a little bit about what that entails today. So today we're going to talk a little bit about DEI and what that entails. I really love this title because it is absolutely beyond just checking a box. It is about casting a wider net to have a more diverse pool of talent to choose from. So we're not just hiring because we're checking a box for ethnicity or gender. We're really making sure that we are having a wider pool of talent to choose from. So we're still hiring for the best fit, but we're making sure that we're casting a wider net to attract that talent in. I also have a quote here for us today about diverse teams and how they make better business decisions up to 87% of the time. And that was a study done by Cloverpop that was also featured in Forbes magazine. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So DEI, like I said before, we're opening the door wider. We're not lowering the bar. So it's about opportunity, not handouts. The goal is to attract a broader range of talent. We're still hiring for the best fit, but now more great people are going to apply. And like I said, we're just going to cast that net a little bit wider to attract a more diverse pool of talents in. So it's really about building better teams, not just checking that box. DEI has unfortunately been dropped from some programs, and I am a little bit sad by that because I think people don't really understand what DEI is about. It's not just about hiring because someone is of a certain race or gender or sexual orientation. We want to make sure that we are just attracting those people in and creating opportunity and giving them a chance. But at the end of the day, we are still hiring for the best fit for that seat or role. We're not just checking that box. So what we're going to talk about today is where you start, which is with hiring. And job posts matter more than you think. We really want to pay attention to the language that we're using on those job posts. When was the last time you really reviewed your job post and took a hard look at what it says and what it appears to represent for that role? A lot of times, especially in sales roles, you'll see words like rock star or aggressive or dominant, and those are very gender-coded words and language and could really prevent you from having a wider net of candidates that are open and willing to apply to your position because they don't feel like they're the best fit. Another thing that prevents a lot of people from applying to positions is your requirements. Are you requiring a degree or a certain amount of years for experience? Do they actually need that 4 years of experience? Or do they truly require that college degree? This prevents a lot of people from applying because they just don't have that. And so they're like, I don't have that, so I'm not going to apply. It's building a high wall and a barrier and preventing you from having a wider pool of candidates that are going to come in and have the potential to work at your organization. Instead, I think it's better to focus on what skills are actually needed for that role. What does success look like for that seat? And what is that person actually going to be accountable for? A method that I really like to use, especially when hiring, is the STAR method. So you ask them to describe a situation, a task, an action, and the result. So when you're building your job posts, think about that and think about, certain situations or tasks or actions that this person may need to do inside of your organization to be successful in that role, and what results you're going to want them to be able to accomplish and what success truly looks like. And that's what these job posts should be centered around. This is really going to widen the net for you and give you a larger pool of candidates. And you want to make sure that you're not excluding talent that could have potentially applied just because you're unintentionally closing that door solely based on your job posting. Before you've even gotten the candidate through the door, you've already closed that door because they feel like they're not going to be the best fit, so they're not going to apply. You also want to keep in mind with the language that you're using and the requirements on your job posting. There was a study that mentioned that women are less likely to apply for the job if they don't feel they can fulfill that role 100%. So really make sure that all the requirements on your job postings are actually needed. Do you need that long laundry list of items, or do you just think that makes your job posting look better? Because if a candidate comes in and they don't feel like they can hit the mark on every single bullet point on your list, then you might be closing the door on some potential talent as well that could be a great fit for your organization. So when you're looking at your job postings, another thing that you can really do to widen that net is going to be offer remote work. Do you actually need to have your employees in office? If not, then maybe you can adapt and offer a remote position. I know that a lot of us adapted after COVID and we started offering remote work. And this is something that really allows you to have a more diverse pool of candidates because you're not just looking in one area. Now all of the states are open to you, or maybe all of the North American region is open to you, or if you're really lucky, maybe the whole globe is open to you. So remote work is something that if you're not currently offering and you can, you absolutely should. Next, we have the interview process. You really want to make sure you're bias proof. You really want to make sure your interview process is bias proof. A simple 2-step interview process goes a long way. You want to make sure you're having multiple people, not just one. So like I said, minimum 2, maybe 3, depending on your organization, involved in the interview process, because this is going to help reduce natural and unconscious bias. So make sure you have a 2-step process set up. You want to get multiple perspectives. Like they say, 2 heads are always better than 1. So we're diversifying our candidates, and you also want to make sure that your interview process is diversified as well. You want to make sure at the same time that your interviews are structured with the same questions. Now, that doesn't mean for interview 1 and for interview 2 are asking the same questions, but you want to make sure that interview 1 and interview 2 are asking the same questions and equal across the board. So you don't want to have, one interview with a potential candidate where you're only asking us certain things, and then the next candidate that comes in is not the same and equal opportunity. So you really want to make sure that those are organized and structured in a way that's fair for all the candidates. You also want to make sure, again, that it's based on clear and role relevant criteria. So that goes back to what I was speaking about previously with that STAR method. Maybe ask them, a situation where they were successful and what the task that they were trying to accomplish was and how they were able to be successful. And if they weren't, you can always talk about, how they were unsuccessful and how they learned from that experience. Just because we aren't able to reach the end goal doesn't mean that we can't learn something from it. So in my interview processes, I like to ask them to describe a situation where they were successful and then also where they were unsuccessful. That way you can see how they handle challenges and they overcome obstacles. This is a great way to kind of look a little bit deeper into what that potential candidate is capable of and how they are going to be successful and potentially how they are able to overcome challenges, which is also important in a workforce as well. So you want to make sure just to diversify the panels as well, because that's going to lead to smarter and fairer decisions while remaining structured and equal for each candidate and really focusing on role relevant criteria. And then after the hire, this is where the inclusion really starts. We want to make sure that DEI-friendly culture doesn't stop with hiring. You really want to foster an environment where everyone can thrive. So again, be mindful of that language, not just in your job postings, but in the workforce as well. Avoid that locker room talk, especially in the tech industry. This was a male-dominated space for a long time, but you want to make sure that everyone feels like it's a space where they can be included. And sometimes that locker room talk definitely prevents inclusivity and that feeling of belonging across the whole team. So you want to make sure you're avoiding that. You also want to make sure you're planning inclusive team events based on actual employee interests. Maybe host a poll, see what everyone's interested in. Do they like the same activities? Maybe you guys all play the same game online. Maybe you guys all enjoy different foods, and you can have, you've got some foodies on the team. You can take turns, maybe doing a potluck and you take turns visiting different restaurants and the area. Or maybe, you hop online and you share what you're eating for, dinner that night. Or maybe you all have a certain movie genre that you like. Maybe you can just hop on and watch a movie together one day. That's always fun to do as well. You also want to make sure that we are really supporting psychological safety too. So you want to make sure people feel heard and included. You want to avoid again, that aggressive language. You want to make sure that everyone is very attentive to how they are speaking to each other and creating a safe space where they feel like they can come to work and be successful. Maybe you can offer even flex schedules to some employees. Maybe an employee is a single parent and they need that extra day to, set themselves up for success. Maybe do some meal prepping, maybe take their kids to appointments that they weren't able to do because of the work week. Or maybe you have an employee that has, some doctor's visits that they need to take care of. And with that normal 9 to 5, 5-day a week work week, they're not able to fit those in. So sometimes offering flex schedules so they have a day to get those tasks done can be really helpful as well. You also want to make sure that you're being mindful of not just physical health, but mental health as well. If you're able to offer a mental health day, that goes such a long way. We're in an environment today where, we've got some spicy neurodivergent people in the workspace, and sometimes they just need a day to reset. I know that I have benefited it before. I suffer from anxiety sometimes, and sometimes I just need a day to be able to reset. So if you can offer those mental health days and to where people feel like they don't have to ask permission to take it, they know that they've got a mental health day to take, then they can just say, okay, I know because I've got this day, I'm going to be able to go and reset. I don't have to necessarily provide a doctor's note, but I can go and make sure that I am taken care of and I can come back to work so that I can perform and be successful in this role. And being able to offer all of these things is really going to create an environment where people want to stay and grow. And when you invest in your employees, they're going to invest in your business. So you really want to make sure that we're fostering an environment, again, where everyone can thrive. Well, thank you for tuning in today and talking about a topic that is near and dear and close to my heart. Just to kind of recap a little bit about what we discussed today. DEI is not about checking a box for your organization. It's about casting a wider net so you can have a more diverse pool of talent. We want to really be providing opportunities to a wider net of people, because at the end of the day, a more diverse company is going to make you better. More perspectives are better. You don't want little carbon copies of each other, because then you're just going to be getting the same results. So more perspectives equal different strategies, which are going to lead to better results. So we really want to make sure that when we are attracting, hiring, and retaining talent, that we are paying attention to our job postings with the language and the requirements. And when we're hiring, we're really paying attention to making sure that we not only are attracting a diverse talent, but we have a diverse board of interviewer panels. That way we can make sure that everything is equal and fair. We want to stay organized and consistent with our interview processes. And we want to make sure that we are really hiring for the role and who's going to be the most successful in that role. And then after we do get the right person in the right seat, we want to make sure that we are fostering a safe and welcoming environment where everyone can feel comfortable and thrive and be confident that they are capable and it's possible to bring their most authentic selves to work, because there's not any fear that they may be judged because of it or they may not fit because of it. We want to make sure that everyone feels like they're a good fit and that they are welcome here. I hope you learned a little bit today, and And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. We'll drop the links below. And if you have not heard of the GTI community before, definitely check it out. It's a great community. The AWIT committee and the DEI committee have been working hard this year to provide a guidebook for you guys on how to attract, hire, and retain. So I'm so excited for that to come out so everyone can have access to it.